So right here I have my Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 for unboxing, and to check this out in greater detail, my first hands-on. So it's the successor to the Mi Mix from last year, which I reviewed. Now that was the phone that rekindled the trend, really. It started again the trend of going for bezel-less phones that Sharp started quite a while back. But now it's very popular in 2017 with all those latest releases, including the iPhone X and the Samsung Galaxy S8, all trying to slim those bezels down and make phones bezel less, but we still have bezels on this. Now, having a look at the press images, I noticed that it could even be the fact that on this model, the successor, the bezels are slightly larger, but we'll check that out. And we've also got less battery capacity on this. So they've gone from 4,400 milliamp hours to only 3,400, which is slightly disappointing. No 3.5mm headphone jack, but the size of it now is a little bit more manageable for most people. So instead of being 6.4 inches, which was rather large, it is now 5.99 inches. And the screen, it's not Super AMOLED or anything like that. It's still LCD. Should look pretty good though with those smaller, at least the chin on the bottom and then the top. The earpiece was under criticism as well for not sounding so great. I didn't particularly like it in my review. Or the rear camera, which didn't have any optical image stabilization. But now with this model, we have a Sony IMX386, and it has 4-axis optical image stabilization, and we also have a new redesigned earpiece. So anyway, let's get this unboxed and have a look at it in greater detail. So I lost my typical unboxing knife, and I just had to get this makeshift one for now. So it's not the 64GB version I have, but in fact the 256GB one, which is great. Alright, so there we go. I'm not too sure what that is. I don't read Chinese. So I'll start off with the accessories here. We have a Type-C cable. The power supply here, which is wedged in there quite nicely. And this is rated to 12 volts, 1.5 amps maximum. And the phone here, now there should be a case as well included, which looks like it's going to be here. So this is the case. So just like the first version, the Mi Mix also came with a very nice case. In fact, it was a leather one. This one doesn't look to be leather. So SIM tool, the adapter there for Type-C to 3.5mm headphone jack. Such a shame that they are removing these jacks on these phones. And it looks like, yeah, it doesn't seem to be leather, but a hard plastic this time around. So a little bit cheaper, the case there. And it has a grey kind of finish to it, rubberized paint job. Overall, it's not too bad. It looks nice. And it even covers the buttons there. So it has this protective slip around it, and you can see that this is where the NFC antenna is going to be in this location here that they've marked out. Alright, that looks very nice. Feels solid. So the frame on this one is made out of metal. Now there is a special edition model that will have the whole thing out of ceramic. So the only ceramic on this is just this rear on here that looks like it's going to be a bit of a fingerprint magnet, although at the moment it's not too bad. So on the back here we have that 12 megapixel Sony IMX386 camera. Now the lens protrudes here, which is a little bit ugly, and to top it off with the ugliness, they put gold around it, which I'm not particularly fond of. I wish this was black, but never mind, that's not too bad. There's the fingerprint reader, and we have a dual tone LED flash. So along the bottom of the device, you see the two antenna strips there. We have a microphone, loudspeaker, the Type-C port, of course. And this right here is the 5 megapixel camera. So still located in the chin. Now the chin of it, or the bottom bezel, is now 12% smaller according to Xiaomi. Now the aperture of this front-facing camera is 2.2. And we'll have to check out the quality of that to see if they've improved that over the previous generation. But more on that later on. So on the top left, you'll find the dual SIM tray here. Now this takes 2 nano SIMs. There's no micro SD card support on this mobile, but with 256GB of internal storage, that is not going to be an issue for me. Then along the top, 2 antenna lines, secondary microphone, and our earpiece. Now it's still not a traditional earpiece here because the speaker's located internally. The sound is then transmitted through that gap here, but hopefully it will sound better than the Mi Mix, but I'll report back on that in my full and final review on this model. And lastly, on the right side, metal volume up and down and power buttons here. They've got a good feel to them. They do not rattle around at all, which is great. So overall, it has a premium build quality to it, and you can see that already I'm getting a lot of fingerprints and smudges on this ceramic back. And in hand, feels good, easy access to those buttons, and a lot more comfortable than the Mi Mix due to its slightly smaller size. So without the camera bulge, it's 7.7 millimeters, and then with it, it comes out to be 8.6, so it's almost a millimeter more that camera bump on the rear, and weighs 188 grams. So have a look at the case now, which is perfectly designed for this phone, of course. So the cutouts are all in the right places, all open at the bottom, but it does protect the corners if you end up dropping it. So this should just clip in, I think, like so. And you can see there that those buttons, they still work great. Good level of protection, although that screen really isn't protected, but a very nice case. And you can see that looks really quite decent, and in hand feels a lot better. Gives me more confidence that I'm not going to drop it because the ceramic material really is quite slippery. And if you were wondering, yes, the case does protect the camera lens. So if you place it face down like that, the lens is just not going to touch it due to the clearance there. You can see the case is slightly higher than the lens itself, which is great. Alright, so it is just powering up now, and you can see that yes, there are still bezels there. In fact, it doesn't have that same wow factor the Mi Mix did, because if you have a look at that bezel, in fact, let's measure that. I'm curious. So the top of it, it looks like it's going to be approximately 3.5 millimeters, and those side bezels are around also 3.5 millimeters. So that's far from being what I would call bezel-less, which would probably be only like a millimeter or a millimeter and a half or something. So MIUI 8, half expected this because MIUI 9 is still in beta. So we have English or Chinese options, and Tibetan, I think some other languages there, but not a multi-language ROM. So I'll just skip ahead from this part and get right into it. So I think there are a few reviews saying it came with MIUI 9. Not yet, but later on it will. Okay, I'm going to set up a fingerprint now. So first you need to put in a pin. This is typical, normal. Okay, the Chinese keyboard. So this is an annoying thing here. So once you get the global version with the global ROM, then you won't have this here because it'll just be in either your European languages or English or whatever you want there. So, okay, I'm just going to set up my super secure pin here. So fingerprint time. The reader is located just here, of course, below the camera module. So I didn't actually mention that before, sorry, but it was pretty obvious. So I place my finger there and have to do this now. I think it's 10 times. And done. Okay. Go with the default theme setup. So that is great. It's loading up now. And just turn that off. Check how it unlocks. So it should unlock, read and unlock straight away, which it did. That is very quick. That is pretty much instant there. Really good. So first impressions of the screen here. Okay, I had a bit of a rant about the bezels. No, it's not bezel-less, but it doesn't look too bad. But it does remind me a lot of the LG G6 or the Samsung Galaxy S8, just the way of it. And Xiaomi have cleverly used a darker background here to try and make the bezels look even a little bit smaller there. So have a look at the settings. You can see they've got this new summary menu here in MIUI 8.5 that it's running the current version. Actually, I'll just show you that ROM too. So there it is. That's the one that they call stable, but I'll connect up to the internet and download any updates if they are pushing them out already for this device. So it does have Android 7.1.1. You can see the resolution, the specs, they put some of the information there for us, which is great. But if you just go along here to all specs, then you get the typical menu that I'm used to seeing here. And we can see the security patch level is from July. And for those of you that want to know the panel information, there it is right there. You can see the panel. And then the back camera, we already knew what it was, the IMX 386. Front cameras, an OmniVision OV5675. Free available storage, 241 gigabytes on the 256 gigabyte model. So there is an update straight off the bat that I've got to download, which is 1.4 gigabytes. And if you're wondering where the notification LED is, well, here it is, down in the chin, because there's nowhere else to put it on this phone. So looking at the display, so far it seems good to me. You'll notice when you're looking at 16:9 content that you're going to get these borders either side here. And that is typical of these types of screens, so they have to do that, otherwise you can. I think maybe there's an option later on to stretch that, probably, to get it to go to the whole screen. And also we do have those on-screen buttons there, which minimize and kind of get themselves out of the way there, at least, which isn't too bad. Now when looking at the ROM here, you'll notice that there is no Google Play. That's because this is the Chinese version, so it doesn't come installed on this ROM. But if you get later the global ROM version, or someone flashes it over, it will come with that already built into the ROM. Now there are quite a few bloatware applications, but from experience you can remove, I think, most of them. You can see under more apps, huge amount of bloat that is crammed on here. They're even starting putting some Microsoft applications on there, so even further bloating it up a bit, but these should hopefully all be removable, and it looks like they will be. So I'll go through and clean that up too later on before my full review, because I hate having all that extra bloat. And for those interested, here is the Antutu score, so almost 180,000, which is on par with other Snapdragon 835 devices with the Adreno 540. Now, so far in my initial testing here, the ROM performance seems to be really good. I haven't noticed any bugs yet, but it's early days yet. I'll use it probably for around about a week before I post my full review. Now, I have installed Google Play. If you want to know how to get that, it's just a matter of moving some files over onto the phone, and then through the backup menu system, you can restore that. And all you're doing is restoring Google Contact Sync, Play Services, the framework, and Google Play Store there, and it's all working. And performance of that as well seems to be very smooth and quick, as you'd expect. So have a listen to the loudspeaker now. But before I give you a demonstration, I've just discovered that I didn't expect this. There actually is audio that comes out of the top earpiece. So it acts like a secondary full-in speaker. It's not quite as good as my Mi Max 2, for example, which uses both of those speakers. But anyway, let's have a listen to it. Okay, so you can hear that front-facing speaker, that little gap that they've got there, it's not very loud. It hardly adds anything, but it's better than nothing. I've noticed that at 100% volume, though, the speaker is distorting a little, but overall, it's quite decent, the loudness that it's putting out. Now, if you're not fond of the on-screen buttons, at least having them showing up all the time, you can get them to auto-hide, and to do that is just to go into additional settings here, then you'll find buttons, and then up the top, hide soft buttons, and you'll see now that I don't have the on-screen buttons showing 24/7, so I just need to swipe up for them to appear again, and that's how you get your home button. But it does make things, I feel, look a little bit cleaner, a little nicer. But it is a real shame that Xiaomi couldn't actually incorporate hardware ones in this space here. I know we haven't got a lot of space because they've got the camera down here, and they've also got the notification LED, so that's probably why it wasn't possible for them to do that. So this has the same sensor as the Mi 6, but unlike the Mi 6, it's got 4-axis optical image stabilization, which is really good. That's going to benefit video, low light, photo performance as well. So in the options here, everything's standard here according to the camera app that MIUI 8 uses. Now MIUI 9, I think they made a few tweaks and changes there. Now we don't have that beautifying mode because this does not have dual cameras on the rear, of course. It's just got the single one there, which I prefer. I have that and optical image stabilization instead of just the dual cameras. So manual mode, we can tweak the white balance, focus, we can override that, exposure time, and then the ISO. And under video, normally they don't give us a lot of options here. Let's see what we've got. We've got slow-mo, time-lapse, and then settings. By default, video quality will always be full HD, but you can see we are still missing in 2017, 60 frames per second, 1080p. Come on. Where is it? We really do need to have that. Everyone else has got that in their flagships. And then focus mode, continue autofocus is by default, but you can override that to tap in case we do run into problems with the focus, like focus hunting, which has been plaguing these phones for so long. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not going to be happening and focus will not be an issue on this. But I'm going to go outside now while the light is good, take a few photos and some video sample from both front and rear cameras. So let's check out my samples now. So this is the rear camera here, shooting in 4K with the default settings. So continual autofocus is on. And it's doing a pretty good job to take out any shake, that optical image stabilization on the IMX386. If I walk along a little, you can see that the stabilization is doing a reasonably good job. A little bit jerky here and there because it doesn't also incorporate digital stabilization like other mobiles. For example, like the iPhones or the Galaxy S7 and 8, or the S8, sorry, that has that in 4K. So the focus seems to be a little bit more controlled here. It doesn't seem to be pulsing in and out all the time. But I'm still not convinced that it's actually locking onto things properly. So it might be wise just to override it in the settings there. There we go. See how it pulsed in and out then. So it seems like the focus may be a bit of an issue still on this, which is sad to see, but it's a lot better, definitely, than what the Mi Mix was like. So this is a sample now from that front-facing camera. So 5 megapixels, f2.2 aperture. Quality seems alright, but I have no idea whether this is 720p or 1080p until I get it on my computer, because there's no settings. I can't change it. You can't tweak the resolution at all. But overall, so far, looks reasonably good. Okay, so that's just a preview there and my unboxing of the Mi Mix 2. It's looking promising, but I must say it just doesn't have that same wow factor when I first unboxed this like the Mi Mix did, because that was something new, but now this isn't really new, is it now? The bezel-less designs are everywhere, and that is the thing of 2017. So obviously I've got a lot of work to do with this. I've got to use it, I've got to test the call quality. Battery life I'm a little bit concerned about because it's a powerful chipset, and they've sized the battery down now to only 3,400 milliamp hours, which isn't exactly super large. So the positives of it, the design is premium, it's very nice. It is a fingerprint magnet. The camera, okay, the quality, it's too early really to judge. It looks a lot better though than definitely what the Mi Mix is, I can say that. Front-facing camera, video quality looks a little average, and the photo quality too doesn't seem as good as other flagships, so they're falling behind a little bit there. We are also missing things like waterproofing, and of course that 3.5mm headphone jack, gone. I don't think we're ever going to see it back again, but hey, you know, we're moving over to digital, they're getting rid of the analog, that's their excuse. And if their excuse was to waterproof the phone, then why doesn't it have an IP rating? No, I'm not going to be testing it. I will not make that error like I did with the Mi 6. So yes, I will be back in my full review. I do hope to catch you back then while I will fully test everything out. I will have a separate gaming review as well. And if you want to see more on the camera, perhaps a camera comparison against my Samsung Galaxy S7, then please let me know in the comments, and if I do have time, I will try to get that out. I will also have the Mi Note 3. That's going to be here on Monday for unboxing, and I will start to review that one after this mobile. So do keep an eye on my channel for that. And if you do have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye for now.